forgiveness.
Yeah.
First of all, I would say that in the past, I would have thought forgiveness is a bit of a religious thing. You know, you forgive your sins and all that. And so I wasn't brought up religious much. I did go to a Christian primary school, and it was all about forgiveness, and you've got to forgive your sins, and Jesus will forgive your sins. Now, you brought up Catholic.
Yeah.
So
I
what
went
was
to
it
a
like for
Catholic
you?
school. We had confession. So
See, I've never done that.
have-
Explain to me.
yeah.
So obviously I've seen it on TV shows and films and everything. Is it literally like that? You go in a wooden box,
Yeah.
slide it over, looks like the back of a wicker chair, and chat to somebody through that.
Yeah.
Did you ever do it as a kid?
Yeah.
And what kind of thing did you say?
So I always remember this. I robbed 10p out my granddad's pocket. And no, actually it was about
Sorry.
it was 50p, and at the time as a kid that's like a huge thing.
Yeah.
But I wanted them for the tuck shop the next day. So it played on my mind for about 2 weeks, but I knew I was going to confession because I think we did it every, it must have been about once a month or something like that. And I went in and it was Father Kelly. I always remember he was a lovely priest. God rest his soul because he's not with us anymore. But you walked in, and it was at St. Paschal Baylon Church. You walked in, there was like it was a curtain.
Oh,
And then behind the curtain was like the little box. And then you could see them through that piece. But you didn't have to look in. It was like as if like you didn't have to show your face if you didn't want to. And I remember telling him, and you could say 3 things. And one of them was that I'd robbed money off my granddad, and I felt really, really bad. Because in them days, you're going back into the 80s, like, I was like, 1982 or something. It was a lot of money for me sweets. It's like having a 10 quid for sweets. And it was lovely because he was like, that's fine, bless your child. And
Can
all
you
of
remember
the
what he
stuff that
said? Like, can you remember what you actually said to him? Did you cry?
You had to say, there was a thing like, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. This
Yeah.
is all coming back to me. And then you would say what it was. And then he would just say like a thing back to you, and then bless you and say your sins are forgiven.
He wouldn't pass any judgment. He
No.
wouldn't tell you it was right or wrong. He would literally go and say, all right, well
yeah.
done, you're forgiven.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And go, it's like you're God's child, it's fine, you're forgiven. So you'd walk out and go, hey, I can go and do something else now, and then I can come back in 2 weeks and be forgiven for it, type of thing. He was a lovely priest though, and I know other people that went to other confessions in other churches, and it was treated like a shame punishment thing.
Oh.
So that, which is totally not what forgiveness is about.
So let me get this right. Somebody else might go to another priest. Hey, I've stolen 50p off my granddad. And they would tell them off, basically.
Yeah, pending the priest's personality, which is not right because you're going to be forgiven, not to be judged. Mm-hmm. But some priests still judge.
Do you know?
That's a big statement.
Yeah.
I've just said. They do, because they're people and they've got their own beliefs and they've got their own opinions. And I think if you're going to be a priest or in that type of role, and I mean, me as a yoga teacher and a coach, we're not supposed to judge. And I don't. And I'm conscious of when I do, and then I ask myself why. Because you shouldn't be in that position to take people's confessions if you're going to judge them on it. Because we've all made mistakes, every single one of us. But the big thing for me is self-forgiveness.
Well, I was just about to come on to that, because that is, for me, was a bit of an alien concept, and it was only something that I did 4 or 5 years ago now. We have touched on this in other podcasts, but I'll just recap very, very briefly. My biological father, I'd been estranged from him for 30 years, hated him to my core, and I decided it was the summer of 2016. Einstein's definition of madness is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. And I knew I couldn't hate him anymore. It was just eating away at me. It wasn't who I was. My biggest value is truth, and I wasn't being truthful about it. So I decided that I was going to forgive him to forgive myself.
Yeah.
because there was loads of stuff that I was doing that was kind of linked back to my experience as a child with him. I was always a bit of an attention-seeking knobhead because, of course, he'd been absent. So, you crave that attention.
Yeah, I get that.
We've talked about money in the past, but I used to like feel sick sending invoices to clients because, and it was only a throwaway comment, he's never paid a penny towards you. And it was when I wanted to go to drama school, actually. You can't do that and he's never paid a penny towards you. And I held on to that. So for years, felt like I wasn't worth paying for. And this was all having like a massive impact on me because I was struggling to invoice. I was just looking for outside validation all the time. I struggled with like, male authority figures because, like my dad, the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man who married my mum and adopted me, who is just incredible. He's a lovely, gentle, awesome, supportive, just, like they threw the mould away for dads when they made him and kept him. He's just great. He's absolutely awesome.
What's his name?
Gary. He's just, Gary 2Rs. He's just amazing. So, and there was a lot of guilt attached to that as well. Like, why am I asked about this person who's not been asked about me when I've got the most amazing dad? And it's just that, it was that small child within me who was craving that person. But I think in order to protect my father-daughter relationship with Gary, it was easier to absolutely hate my biological father. And I can understand that and I can see that now. So I get to the summer of 2016, I'm depressed for the first time in my life. I'm suffering with anxiety, I'm getting panic attacks because, using a bit of a spiritual term, I'm out of alignment with who I am. I'm not living my truth, I'm not expressing myself. So I went to forgive my dad so I could forgive myself. And I couldn't, unfortunately, do that because after making contact with him, he passed away just over a week later. That is when the process of self-forgiveness started. And I'm actually writing my third book on this. I've been trying to write this book for the last 2 years on this subject. I don't know if I should say the title because I don't want anybody to nick it, but then maybe I should say it so that I've got proof it's in this podcast and I've said it. So it's called Forgive to Live.
Love it.
Because you've got to forgive and you've got to let go of stuff to be able to live. And I can't believe how much better I feel now, having honestly, genuinely forgiven my biological father for being absent. And there's lots of different flip sides of it. So like, I forgive him for being completely useless because he allowed me to have the most beautiful, amazing relationship with Gary, my dad, you know? Like, there are a lot of kids who have parents who split up and they split their time on the weekends with parents, one Christmas with one Christmas with the other. Because my biological father was so crap, I never had any of that.
Yeah.
I was just able to be a lovely little family unit.
Yeah.
So it was understanding and realising the positives that had come from that broken relationship. And that was really important for forgiveness. And I suppose that is the biggest... I publicly declared at his graveside, I actually said the words out loud. For everything you chose to miss, we choose to rewrite our histories with love and forgiveness. We are grateful you gave us life. Thank you. Rest in peace. And that was like...
And then you've let go then.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. And it's funny because we've talked on this podcast before about weight and food. And in that time of having a breakdown, I use food as my coping mechanism and I put on a lot of weight. But I also, and this is a bit of a weird thing, I'm going to sound absolutely nuts, I feel like that anger and that hatred and that inability to let go and forgive, I feel like I held it in every cell in my body. Does that sound weird?
No, it's right, because that's what you'll have done. You'll have kept it all in.
And there was some days when I was
not wanting to let go.
Yeah, and I think like I don't know if weight and emotions are linked like that, but I felt like every cell of my being was just full up of this hate and anger. And I remember this one time when I went out for a walk because I could feel myself getting angry. And as I was walking along, as my feet were taking every step, I was imagining that, like, it's going to sound nuts. Here we go.
Crank.
Fucking crank.
It's all right. I was one the other day.
Well, as my feet were touching the ground, I was imagining that these like sparks of forgiveness were happening. I was letting go of that crap in every cell in my body. And I did that process for a while, and it was really helpful. But one of the main ways that I've practiced self-forgiveness is through writing it down. Not just in my journal, but in my book as well. So I came up with this. My second book is called Stop Procrastinating and Start Living. And you know, one of the main things I teach people, if you've procrastinated on stuff, so let's say you've had a big goal for ages and you've just not done it, you develop these feelings of shame and shit self-worth.
And you start telling yourself.
And you start telling yourself
shit,
you're shit, you're not good enough. So one of the things I tell people to do is to Elsa the shit out of it first. You've got to let it go, because what's been in the past has been in the past and you can't do anything about it. So that exercise in self-forgiveness is really important for you to be able to wipe the slate clean and move on. And that's what I've brought my journal today for
You're going to share
listening.
some stuff, because you were sharing it prior to the podcast. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be good for our listeners to
I will. But
listen.
first of all, I want to ask about... So that's my biggest forgiveness with my biological father. What about you? How has forgiveness helped you improve your life?
Okay. I would say 7 years ago, when stuff happened to me and Mark personally, and we split up in our relationship, and it was a place of heartbreak, and it was a place of, to be honest, it was a good thing, because it needed to happen. Me and Mark were not good, and I'm not going to go into the details, but we weren't good because we had the two small kids. We both worked full time. He worked away, and we were like two passion ships. Just literally, we didn't speak, we didn't argue, we didn't communicate. We'd just pass in the house and pass the kids to each other, and I'd happily tell him what I'd done that day. I've done this, I've done that, I've changed 5 nappies, and I've done this, and I've done that, and I've done the dishes, and I've done that. And then he'd be like, okay, well, I've done this, and I've done that. And there'd be like a big competition. That was the only thing we'd say to each other. Then we'd go to bed separately, and didn't speak. And then obviously he worked away. So of a weekend, he'd come home and I'd pass him the kids and go bye, and go out and go to my mum's or go and sit with me mates, because I'd had the kids all week, and I'd feel like, well, I've had them all week and I've been working, so you can have them. But we never ever spoke about it. It was just like, as you do, you're just in the motions. So we ended up splitting up, and it was heartbreaking. It was really sad, because I still loved Mark I noticed how much I actually did love him when we split up. And because we did say we'd split up because we didn't want to be that couple that would argue in front of the kids. We didn't want the kids to feel it, and we didn't want to stay together just for the sake of the kids, because so many people stay together for the kids, but the kids will notice that that's not right, and that's not love, is it? You're just staying together because you're probably more bothered about what people would say if you got divorced or you separated. People are so bothered by that.
I think people also think it's best for the kids to stay together. But if you're going to split up anyway further down the line...
And then you're not living your life.
Yeah.
And so, but the kids will notice that you're not right. The kids will feel it and see it in the arguments or see it in the behaviours, and then think that's normal. And then that's what married life or partnership is supposed to look like. So anyway, I think at that point we split up. We were split up for like 18 months, and then we decided to get back together.
Didn't realise it was that long.
Yeah, we stayed friends, sort of. We were like, it was quite, because I could see how upset he was, and he was still the father of my kids, and I still thought I couldn't be one of them women who split up from my husband and badmouth the dad to the kids, because he's a good dad. He's a really good dad, and I could see that he was suffering, which is something that he doesn't ever speak about, because he never used to speak about how he felt, which was one of the things. And so when we ended up not speaking for a few weeks, because a month, because we thought it would be best with the emotions being involved. And then over time, we began to speak again and be friends. And we got back together. And some people were saying, why are you getting back together? I don't think it'll be a good idea. And it was like, well, I forgive him. I actually, I wasn't innocent in this whole thing, and I can understand why things have happened the way they have. So, and I still love him. So we're going to give it another go. And people just couldn't get their heads around it. But I am a dead forgiving person, to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't hold grudges. I think it might just be in me nature to, if I fell out with a friend, I'd be speaking to them the next day, or I'd be the person to go, I'm sorry. Or I'd just let them go. And then, the next time I'd see them, I'd just be normal with them because I don't really hold grudges.
Is that because you're somebody, I want to ask a question on that. Are you somebody that doesn't like conflict?
I don't like conflict, but I'm not a walkover either.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think some people see kindness as a weakness, don't they? And for me, and I know obviously being in the world of personal development and being a yoga teacher, the forgiveness piece is about, if you don't forgive someone, if you hold on to something about someone, you're only making yourself hurt. You're not. So if I'm like, oh, and this person said this to me, and they've said this, and they've done this, well, it's only me holding on to it. So you're upsetting yourself, and then people say, well, that's just the way I feel. I'm like, yeah, but that person's not bothered. They're not feeling it. Or they might be because you're not speaking to them, but you're the one who's holding on to it. So you have to let go. And then, so I forgave other people, but never myself.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. And at what point
and I
did
only
you think...
got onto that about 5 years ago, that I carried loads of stuff with me. And then all of you shit, you're not good enough. You did this, you said that, you've done that, you've had that thought. And then obviously going into personal development even more so, and hitting rock bottom with me and Mark, that made me question, wow, I forgive everyone else, but I don't forgive myself. So that's been a work in progress, I'd say, over the last 2 years, because I'm a human being. I made mistakes. I've had a wild and colourful life. I freely admit that. Everyone who knows me knows I have. And looking back, I go, do you know what? Actually wasn't really that bad, but I've held myself as this horrible person. Or looking back, I don't think it is that bad. And I think, God, if I can forgive other people, why can't I forgive myself?
Yeah.
Because it is what it is, and it's all in the past. And I am definitely a different person than what I even was 3 years ago. Because we're constantly changing, aren't we?
And do you think self-forgiveness has played a part in that?
Massive. And that goes back to the affirmations that I've gave to you last year.
Well, explain that, because I was about to ask you, how do you practice self-forgiveness, and what advice would you give to other people? Because my advice would be to just write it out, journal it out, or actually speak it out loud. I found an audio clip. I've turned my phone off. I should have turned it back on and played it, but actually it's so cringe. I'm in the car and I've voice recorded myself having a word with myself, but forgiving myself for things. I'm getting emotional even thinking about it now. So I was looking for a particular voice recording. Somebody I know passed away, and I had a voice recording that I wanted to use, right? So I was going back over the archives in my voice notes. I'm a radio presenter, so I use my voice notes a lot. So there's hundreds of them. And I found one, and it just said, it was something like, you are enough. And I clicked on it, and it's me in the car having a word with myself. And I was like, whoa, that's actually quite powerful. So in the last couple of weeks, I've started doing it again. And
that's such
just
a
little
idea.
Audio note of where I am at that time.
Yeah.
And so I'll be able in the future to listen back to it and think, have I progressed or have I not? And actually, I think listening back to it was more powerful than looking back over the written stuff in the journal, because I can hear my own voice and I can hear my own emotion into it. So I would suggest that as a tip. Get your voice notes on your phone and record yourself actually saying to yourself, I forgive you. There's a really good app as well, and it's called think up. It's like an orange icon with it looks like a shoot, a plant shoot.
Yeah.
And
Think up.
Think up. You can record your own affirmations on there.
Ooh.
It's got some tracks on there, but you can record your affirmations. And I do have one where I've said, Gemma, I forgive you for, and it's binge eating in this case. And it's mixed in with a load of other affirmations. And you can set notifications of when to play it. So come on, it's your think up time, play your daily affirmations. And that's quite powerful. I'm not very good at sticking to a lot of these things. They're kind of like a flash in the pan thing. But for you, you've got a specific thing that you've sent to me before, which I can probably find in here. And I'd love you to explain it because it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's saying affirmations is a massive one for me, for anyone. And I think journaling is huge because it's that, and again, that writing, letting the energy and the thoughts come down the arm, through the hand and onto that piece of paper. There's a science behind that. So journaling definitely, but the affirmations for me is I discovered when I was on a course a couple of years ago, I think it was, and it was 21 things to say to yourself, and I did it for 30 days, and I was in a really low place about myself, and it was say 7 things that you are proud of yourself for, 7 things that you forgive yourself for, and 7 things that you're going to commit to. Because how many of us ever tell ourselves what we're proud of about ourselves? How many of us forgive ourselves, and how many times do we commit to stuff? But the science behind it is you say your name and you look into your own eyes in the mirror for each one. So you're looking into your eyes in the mirror.
Oh yeah.
So you're dead deep into and because you don't do that. And
no.
So you have to look into your eyes and you have to say these 21 things. And it took me about an hour to get these 7 things written down because I can't remember all this. I need to write it down and think it through. And then I had these things to say for 30 days. And over the 30 days, a couple of them changed because I felt a couple of them leaving me. So it would be Claire. I'm trying to think of now.
I've got it here.
Go on.
So interestingly, it's titled.
So you say your name and look into your eyes. Go on.
Now, I don't know if producer Jacob, can you see that on there or not? So on our video, apologies if you're listening audio-wise on the podcast, but on the video, there on this page here, this is what it looks like, but I'll read it out. So it's called Claire's Advice for Imposter Syndrome, and I can see it says, Gemma, I'm proud that you... Gemma, I forgive you for, and Gemma, I commit to you that. Do you want me to read some out? Okay.
Yeah, go on.
I'm going to cringe here.
Because it just gives people an example of what to say, and then you just say whatever feels right for you. So
and I've not read these back, so this is just off the cuff. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Gemma, I'm proud that you wrote, released, and took 2 books to #1 bestseller status. Gemma, I am proud that you are so self-aware and you always know the answer deep down. I am proud of the positive choices you make. Gemma, I'm proud that you are getting better at setting boundaries and prioritising your own needs first. And then it says, Gemma, I forgive you for playing small and not believing in yourself. Gemma, I forgive you for binge eating all those times and feeling like food was your only comfort. Gemma, I forgive you for all the times you completely overthink things and stall your own progress. It's easier than you think. Gemma, I commit to you that you will make positive choices to achieve your goals. Gemma, I commit to you that you can and will use your talents with ease to create your dream life for your whole family. Gemma, I commit to you that you can continue to show up and speak with confidence.
So if you say that to yourself every day for 30 days, looking into your own eyes as you're saying it.
I did do it in the mirror and felt like a knob.
Hearing it, you do.
But it was powerful.
Yeah, and then you can get through that 30 days, notice a difference because you're rewiring your brain, you connecting new synaptic connections in the brain, and you feel better. And because you're saying it out loud, and even the commitment, you do what you commit to. So you the subconscious mind's going, okay, well, you said you were going to do that, so you're just going to do it. So
do you know what? I'm looking at this, at the dates on it as well. Really interestingly, I did do this, and within 3 weeks, looking at this, I lost 13 pounds, and I know this was part of it. I remember because I'm going back 7 months in my journal here, but I can remember this time.
It's subconscious stuff, because it's all the subconscious stuff that drives what we do on the surface. And if you tell yourself these things and you're looking into your eyes, you're hearing it, you're saying it, all of those using the senses, it goes in, rewires the brain.
Amazing.
But it's the practice. So even if you said, okay, Claire, I commit to you that you're going to do these affirmations every day for 30 days, and then you will. So that, the journaling and meditation, commit to yourself maybe that you're going to meditate for 5 minutes every day and sit with yourself and notice what thoughts you're having, and know that that's okay and not to judge, knowing that if you feel that way, you feel that way, it's fine. That's how you feel in that moment. And then that's a release in itself.
Yeah.
So the self-forgiveness piece is huge, because so many people are just literally walking around with these guilty thoughts and shame in their head, worrying about other people, what other people are going to say. And you know what? It's like, at the end of the day, if people don't like you for something that you've done, or you can't be yourself, we all make mistakes. So they're not worth knowing.
They're not.
They're simply not, because they've got problems themselves. And if we were just all a little bit more open, we would all know that it's okay.
Yeah.
To make mistakes and to forgive each other.
And forgive yourself.
Absolutely.
I've got something to share with you. So, I was talking about my book, Forgive to Live.
Love
right.
it.
So I've been
Love
trying to
that
do
title.
this for 2 years. I have got so many stop-start chapters. I use a program called Ulysses. I use Google Docs, and I've got all these chapters, and it's like book 3, Forgive to Live, and they're everywhere. They're here, there, and everywhere, because I haven't found like a cohesive thought process behind it. Like a golden thread that runs through the whole thing to kind of make it all fit together.
But does it need to?
I don't know, but I wanted to share this with you because I was getting pissed off with myself. So this is only 2 weeks ago now. I was getting annoyed because this is a goal that I'm really, really trying to achieve at the moment, and I'm pushing with it, which is probably the wrong thing to do, which is probably why, thanks universe, we're talking about this today. I probably need to just let go, which is what you've been telling me all week. Surrender. But the other morning, you know what I'm like? I get up, 5:30. One of the first things I do after the coffee, because that's the most important thing, obviously. Coffee, let Kevin the dog out, laugh at his face because he's ugly. And then he's like, honestly, my dog is like the ugliest but most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life.
I seen him. He was trying to hump Blake yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's horrible. So after creeping downstairs, hoping there's no dog shit in the utility room, and getting my coffee, kicking Kevin outside, it's time to calm down, put my salt lamp on, touch my crystals, and do my journaling. So this was a couple of weeks ago now, and I wrote a forgiveness list of all the things that I can and will and probably actively would like to forgive, either within myself or others or other things. And I'm going to read this out because some of them are fucking ridiculous.
Go on.
I don't know whether to start with them ones or the more emotional ones first.
Do us a sprinkling.
Okay.
Just hit us with them.
So, my relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
That's what I want to, in the past, what I want to forgive myself for. And my husband will cringe if he ever, he won't listen to this. It's not Call of Duty, so we're all right. That's all he does. That's all he does. But he's pretty, he's got a big willy and he's funny. So anyway, he can stay. Anyway, he hates me saying, I've been sober for this amount of time, because he says it makes you sound like you're an alcoholic. But in the past, I've used alcohol to the extreme. You know, it's not, I've definitely been
it numbs stuff, doesn't it?
But just been an all or nothing idiot, like too many Sambuca shots on a night out.
Thinking you're dead hard, and then vomiting everywhere and just being horrible. A tit.
Just be like, do you know one of the things I used to do? And this is disgraceful. It was around the time Lara Croft was popular.
Yeah.
And where I lived in Preston at the time, there was this massive hill on a cobbled street. So the taxis used to crawl, like they'd be at the biting point as they got to the top of the hill. So I'd hide behind the corner, wait for a taxi to kind of like grind to a halt at the top of the hill and do like a stunt roll over the bonnet and pretend that I had a gun with my fingers and just point it at the taxi driver's head through the window.
Oh
why?
my
Thinking I
God.
was Lara Croft. I am really lucky. I never got run over.
Know. But you
Full
never
on
got
roll
bonneted.
over the bonnet.
Yeah.
What a knobhead. Anyway, going back on...
We've done stuff like that.
Just-
So honestly, that's pretty. I think that's part of the lad
It's pretty
culture,
standard. Anyway.
especially in Liverpool.
Also on the forgiveness list
yeah.
is how I feel about my boobs. That's on the
Yeah.
forgiveness list. Like,
Why? Because do you hate them?
they're just
you do.
massive.
I know they're massive. They are huge.
They're huge. Somebody sent me this hilarious video the other day of a line of big-breasted women, and it just said "clap for NHS," and they were clapping their boobs.
I've seen it. You should be in there.
My mates were like on WhatsApp going, "Oh, have you seen this?" And I'm like, "Can none of you do that?" And they were like, "Really? You can do that?" I was like, "I could play a full tune with my massive chebs."
You could.
I could.
You should be in that video. You'd be the best one.
I would. Thanks, Claire.
No, but I like big boobs.
I don't. A pain in the arse, which
I
is
know
why
they
I
can
need to
be
forgive
uncomfortable.
myself for my
Absolutely.
relationship with
your
them.
boobs.
Yes. Other things on the forgiveness list: need to forgive myself for self-loathing, imposter syndrome, not being good at everything, nagging in my marriage, anxiety, depression. I've put the government. I need to forgive the government. Fuck Boris.
I
I
think that's a really good one because so many people are so
Yeah.
angry
Yeah.
with the government
Yeah.
that it's eating their lives up,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know what?
I wouldn't want that job.
I wouldn't want that job, and I don't think whatever decision that they make, they're going to please
Yeah.
everyone anyway. So just let it go.
Here's another one. Forgive myself for having 120,000 unread emails. I know that's going to make you vomit.
Just delete them.
I need to forgive myself for having long leg hair. What the fuck was I doing? Emotional spending. Oh my God, I've just read this one. I need to forgive myself for not being carbon neutral. What the fucking fuck?
No, I totally get that. I feel really guilty about that. See, this is just the deep stuff, Gemma.
Oh my God! Please, nobody come for me. They're going to take me away.
I get it, though. I get it. When you're having your little spiritual moments and you're thinking about the planet, that's nice.
I'm sorry, Greta.
Yeah, forgive yourself, Gem. Go on. What else? What else have we got?
Oh, dear me. So from the absolutely ridiculous
From
to...
leg hairs to going carbon neutral.
To-
having big baps.
Oh, here we go. This one probably will make me cry. There's two things here that are going to make me emotional. The first one is I forgive myself for childbirth and the fact that it wasn't the way that I wanted to go.
Oh, God, yeah, that's a big one for women.
And, here we go. Motherhood not being what I expected. I don't know what I expected. I expected to be... Okay, here we go. I expected to be Earth Mother, you know?
I know.
And it's just hard.
Do you know that having a child is the biggest personal development program that you can go on? I think
Definitely.
it's a massive personal development program transformation because it's just like that. It's so good. But you have your highs and lows, don't you? Absolutely. Totally get that. Absolutely.
So that is my
thank you
ridiculous
so
I mean, there's a
much
lot
for your
more.
honesty.
There's a lot more on there, but
I'm going to give you a hug after
I'm actually
therapy. This is therapy.
having a shit fashion sense. I've put on there as well.
I don't think I've got a shit
I
fashion
fucking have. I buy all my clothes in Asda. They're always cheap.
Did you forgive your eyebrows?
Oh, do you know they are on there somewhere?
Because
Yeah.
I know you had a hang up on your eyebrows and you've had them done now, haven't you? So they look very nice.
My eyebrows look like Fritzl. For anybody who doesn't know who Fritzl is, Fritzl was that weird guy who kept his own daughter in a basement and had kids with her for like years. And do you remember in his mugshot when they arrested him, his eyebrows were just everywhere. He looked like he'd been electrocuted. Yeah. That's what my eyebrows look like.
That's
forever.
What my dad's look like sometimes.
Yeah.
I have to
my
trim
goodness.
them. I love it.
Well, to wrap this up then, our advice would be, can you just recap your exercise in those things? Because they're brilliant.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to contact me, I'm on Facebook, or we've got our website, haven't we, that people can contact us, and we can post it on there, or we can send it. But it's 7 things that you are proud of, and as you do it, you say it, and you're looking into your eyes in the mirror, and every sentence you say your name. Okay, so 7 things you're proud of, 7 things that you forgive yourself for, and 7 things that you're going to commit to. And the first few times that you do it, you probably won't get past the first couple of things you're going to say to yourself, because you're like a blubbering snot ball mess. But that's good. Work through it, because it's just these emotions, and it's so nice to hear yourself say that you're proud of yourself for something. The more you start saying this good stuff about yourself, the more you start rewiring your brain, the more you start focusing on good stuff. And then you'll notice more good stuff in other people, and you just feel like lighter.
I love it. I'm going to share that actually with my sister. I think she'd enjoy. Yeah, I think she'd enjoy that.
7 things you're proud of, 7 things you forgive yourself for, 7 things that you commit to. Look in your eyes and say your name at the beginning of every sentence.
And I would also advise to write yourself a forgiveness list of all the highs, the lows, the ridiculous, the funny, because that's the first time I've read that back, and actually it is quite hilarious.
Well,
it's a good little exercise.
What you're thinking of at that time, because that was obviously on your mind, and I totally get some of that.
Brilliant.
Thank
you very much for listening. This has been Honest to God Podcast. This week has been about forgiveness. My name's Gemma.
My name's Claire.
And we'll be back next week with another episode.
And we forgive you.